A crime story of betrayal, obsession, and the terrible cost of secrets. The Lawson family was a picture of success. Henry Lawson, 52, was a real estate mogul with charisma, a silver tongue, and a well-manicured public image. His wife Clara, 48, was a former interior designer turned philanthropist. Their only son, Daniel Lawson, 26, was a junior architect with his father's firm, a rising star with none of his father's ego. Life for the Lawsons was beautifully curated. Then came Michelle John. She was bright, artistic, full of untamed spirit. She worked part-time at a local gallery while pursuing her own dreams of opening a modern African art center. Daniel met her at a charity gala, and they hit it off instantly. A whirlwind romance followed. After 10 months, he proposed. She said yes. What no one knew, not even Michelle at first, was that Henry had been in her life before Daniel ever came along. Months before Daniel's proposal, Michelle had a brief but intense affair with a mysterious older man she met at a fundraiser. He told her only his first name, Henry. He was charming, generous, and emotionally magnetic in a way that made her ignore the guilt creeping in. When he vanished from her life, she assumed it was over, until Daniel introduced her to his family. The dinner that night was pure psychological warfare. Their eyes met across the table and froze, only for a second. Henry pretended not to know her. Michelle did the same. But the affair reignited behind Daniel's back. Only now, the stakes were higher, dangerous. Henry promised her the world. He said he'd leave Clara, but he didn't. Michelle grew tired, confused. When she found out she was pregnant, panic set in. She decided to come clean, but before she could, she disappeared. Daniel filed a missing persons report after not hearing from her for 2 days. Her apartment was locked from the inside. Her phone and bag were inside. Her art supplies were untouched, but no Michelle. The family was devastated, especially Daniel. Henry, meanwhile, quietly burned with anxiety. Clara stood by her son, unaware of the secrets buried beneath their marble floors. Detective Elena Ruiz, a calm but hard-edged investigator with a record for breaking high-profile cases, was assigned. At first, everything pointed to Michelle leaving voluntarily. Young, stressed, no signs of struggle. But the deeper Elena looked, the stranger it got. Her car was left in the garage. She missed work and never called in. She had been Googling parental rights and prenatal care just days before disappearing. Elena interviewed friends and co-workers who said Michelle had seemed on edge, as though she was preparing to leave someone, but no one knew who. Daniel was heartbroken, quiet, withdrawn. But it was during his second interview with Elena that something cracked. He confessed, "I saw her with someone a few months ago, kissing. I thought I was hallucinating, but now I think it was my father." Ruiz's ears perked. No one had mentioned Henry Lawson in the investigation yet, not as anything more than the father of the fiancée. She pulled his call logs. He'd called Michelle 17 times in the past month. The pieces began to form a terrible image, but Henry denied everything. Calm, smooth. He said Michelle had called him a few times to ask for advice about Daniel. She said she was overwhelmed, he claimed. "I told her to talk to him. That's all." Ruiz wasn't buying it. 2 days later, the medical examiner dropped a bombshell. Michelle was 8 weeks pregnant at the time of her disappearance. Daniel froze. Ruiz asked if he could be the father. "No," he said quietly. "I can't have kids. I had a vasectomy 2 years ago." Everything changed. Ruiz dug harder into Henry. Behind the scenes, Henry's financial empire had cracks, lawsuits, payoffs, a mistress from 5 years ago. His squeaky clean image was armor, one that began to splinter. Then came the breakthrough. A storage unit was discovered in Michelle's name, paid for in cash. Inside were canvases, a suitcase packed with baby clothes, and a leather-bound journal. He said he'd leave her. He never did. I told him about the baby. He said he was thrilled, but his eyes said something else. He grabbed my wrist yesterday, told me if I said anything, he'd ruin me and Daniel. Then, the final journal entry. I'm meeting Clara tonight. I have to tell her. I owe her that. Ruiz confronted Clara with the journal. Clara broke down. Yes, she'd found a message Michelle sent Henry. Yes, she'd gone to confront her. Yes, she was furious, betrayed, humiliated. I screamed at her. I told her she destroyed my family. I told her to leave him and disappear. And then I left. She was crying. I didn't stay. I didn't care. I just wanted her gone. But Clara swore she never hurt her. Ruiz wasn't sure until forensic dogs hit on something. The family's cabin, tucked in the woods outside of town. A place Daniel didn't even know existed. There, in a shallow grave near the riverbed, was Michelle's body. The autopsy revealed the cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head. No defensive wounds, not a beating, a sudden impact, like a fall or a push. Under pressure, with DNA on Michelle's nails and cell tower pings placing him at the cabin the day after Clara's visit, Henry finally confessed. She said she was leaving, going to the press. She was screaming. I just grabbed her to stop her. She fell, hit her head. I didn't mean to, but he did nothing to help her. He buried her, lied, played the grieving father. The trial was a media circus. Henry was sentenced to 25 years for involuntary manslaughter and obstruction of justice. Clara filed for divorce and moved away, trying to outrun the shame. Daniel received one final email from Michelle, a scheduled message sent through a delay app a month after her death. I was trying to do the right thing. I never meant to hurt anyone. I loved you, Daniel. That was always real. I just wish I had the courage to tell you sooner. I was never afraid of you, only of what your father might do. He read it alone. In the new apartment, he barely unpacked. The snow fell quietly outside the window. The city pulsed outside, indifferent to grief. His father was in prison. His mother was gone. His fiancée, his future, was buried in a forest clearing. But something in her words struck deeper than the pain. That was always real. Not the lies, not the betrayal. Love. Daniel didn't close the laptop this time. Instead, he opened a new tab and began drafting an application for a non-profit startup grant. He named the project after her, the White Center for Contemporary African Art. It took time, months of struggle, quiet therapy sessions, long nights staring at walls and wondering if it was worth it. But then the gallery doors opened. On the first day, Daniel stood in front of a crowd with Michelle's self-portrait hanging behind him. A single candle glowed below the frame. She wanted to create something beautiful. She deserved more time. But this is hers. This is how she lives on. After the ribbon was cut, a little girl wandered in with her mother and stood silently before the painting. Daniel watched. For the first time in a long time, he smiled. 2 months later, a letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. I don't expect forgiveness, Daniel, but I want to be better than I was. I let pride guide my silence. I turned pain into poison, and I can never undo that. But if you'll let me, I'd like to help build something. For her, for you, for the child who never had a chance. Clara. At first, Daniel ignored it. Then he read it again and again. He didn't reply. But weeks later, when the city approved his grant for the gallery, he added a name to the founding donor list: Clara E. Lawson. They didn't talk about the past. When she arrived at the construction site months later, she brought coffee, donated Michelle's favorite chairs from the old gallery, and quietly wrote another check. No questions asked. She showed up every week after that, sometimes just sweeping the floors, or helping catalog art pieces, or bringing in lunch for the volunteers. When the doors of the White Center for Contemporary African Art finally opened, Daniel stood beside her at the entrance. Michelle's portrait hung in the front gallery. Below it, a plaque read, "For the dreamers who never got the time, for those who carry on in their name." After the crowd had moved inside, Clara touched Daniel's arm lightly. "She would have been proud of you," she said. "I am." Daniel didn't say anything, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone.